Hey everyone, welcome back. It is Icon. Thank you so much for checking out another episode of Esports Analysis. Today, we are on board with SCUMP as he and the Chicago Huntsmen go to battle again against Team Triumph. We've been breaking down this scrim for a few days in a row now, mainly because they approach things just a little bit differently than a lot of the pro teams do. I know that they try to simulate what they see in pro matches and stuff like that, but there's just some things that are a little bit unpredictable with what Triumph does. And for me, it's a little bit of a break in the action that we normally see, right? Most of the time when we watch Chicago battle like Minnesota or New York or Atlanta, I mean, things are kind of the same almost, right? The scrims go the same way. Most teams that are a little bit better with ARs win the larger maps. Smaller maps usually go to the SMG dominant play. So this is just a little bit different because it's a team that they don't play very often. So it just offers a little bit of a different view set from what we're used to seeing. But with that, there's about 16 seconds left in P1. Chicago currently doesn't have the spawns for P2, but they got a ton of time inside of P1. So even if they give up the majority of the time inside of P2 and they aren't able to flip, it's not going to hurt them all that much just because they've already got 40 points on the scoreboard. So with that, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to let you guys listen in. I'm still going to pause it when important things happen or game-changing plays, or I see a rotation that's going to end up altering the course of a hard point or something like that. But without further ado, let's go ahead. Let's turn up the audio. Let's listen in to Chicago's team comms.
Nice. One shot standing, it's 3-3-3. Shoot, close choke. Good job. One more boulder. Good job, guys. Underpass. Nice. I'm trying to push it. I'm going.
So I'm just going to pause this real quick because I want to make sure that we're breaking this down. So Chicago's been doing this a lot lately, and it doesn't really matter so much what the map is. They've been approaching a lot of these the same exact way. So when this map started, they got spawned out over here. Obviously, this is bad spawn. That's not the spawn that you want because as it rotates to P2, which is one of the dominant spawns on this map, you want to have this back right spawn. So as what they've been doing on a lot of maps is as it rotated from P1 to P2, almost everybody from Chicago hit this cliff's edge. So they hit this right flank over by P5. And they've been doing this a lot. They do it on the P2 to P3 transfer on Ramaza. They do it on a couple other maps where rather than send a couple people up top and feel out what's happening or send a couple people mid, they all just hit one route all at the same time. And essentially that's what makes it more successful. What I've been seeing from them, they've been more successful at breaking hills when they might not have the initial setup by flooding one lane rather than send out feelers in multiple other lanes. Let's see how this plays out as we continue on.
I'm looking underpass right now, guys. Nothing front. Oh, underpass. I can't get a goddamn kill. One more P5.
Front, short. He's hurt.
I'm pushing out front right now.
I'm getting time.
Oh, you just rocked my world, baby.
Too far. I did it. Underpass.
Dead. He's like...
Just a quick note, before that scum death right there, there was basically almost 5 dead for Chicago, and they still got that back spawn, and they were still able to continue getting time inside the hardpoint. So that's just one of the things that makes P2 such a dominant hill on this map, right? If you get slayed out in P3, you're not going to spawn inside the hardpoint. You're not really going to have a chance to get back in it without much of adversity in your face. Same with like P4. So P2 is just one of those hills where even if you do get slayed out, you lose a team battle, you're going to end up spawning close enough to where you can get back in and continue gaining points.
One more blue. J-Man.
Watch middle.
Only right corner. Alec, you can just go new. I'm helping. I got naded. Or close zone, Ogden. Ogden, one shot hill. One shot this side hill, absolute.
He's on stacks on me. Stack's dead. Got two.
I have your health, Alec?
One more, yeah, I'm saying now.
Middle.
Yep, I'm looking short. Short.
I'm dead. I was
One shot, short.
Up yellow.
We're dead.
Naga was
weak.
Yeah, there's one P2 guys. P2 spawns.
Yeah, we're spawning. I'm spawning under bridge right
Yeah,
now.
P2 spawns. Yeah.
I'm just looking. I'm looking long. I'm looking beat down right now, guys.
I'll get time.
Beat down on me.
I mean, stop.
I'm dead. Got two beat down.
Underpass.
Yeah, I'm looking beat down.
He watched the pinch. He's short, standing.
Yo, pinch.
Yeah, now we can flood.
What the fuck, dude?
So I'm going to pause this real quick. I'm going to bring up our mini map just so you can kind of see what was happening on the rotation from P3 to P4. So as that was going on, when Chicago left P3, they sent Envoy over towards P5, and they sent one mid-map, because essentially what they're trying to do is push out this spawn right here, because like P2, even a little bit more so than P2, P5 is the most dominant hard point on this map. So while those two were trying to flip, they were unsuccessful at that. But Arcides and I think Pristini, both of them were inside P4, which means they were able to get that initial time. And as Scump came up off a spawn, he pushed mid. Only reason why he would push mid is because if Triumph had this spawn and they were pushing, then as Scump comes through mid, he's able to shoot them from behind and get easy kills in the back, which just secures more time inside of P4. So unfortunately, Scump and everybody else that was working the flank died. So now if you're Chicago, you have to play for time inside of P4, because it's not very likely you're going to be able to get a flip as it rotates to P5.
Push it.
The smoke short.
I can't see shit. Too short. One beat on. Good job. Push it. We flip. We should flip. No. Push it. P2 spawns. Go. Play for kills. Make the fuck up.
Yeah, I'm one shot SP2.
We need to get killing light, bros, or it's not happening.
Below you.
Yeah.
We still didn't flip. Push through.
Yeah, we're not gonna be clean white. Yeah.
On the truck standing. Underpass.
I got time, you go.
Not dead. One more half wall.
I'm all dead. Top sandbags and hitting a beds.
That's dead.
Looking boulder for you.
If you die, hold your spawn.
One short,
Oh, you
yeah.
can't hold your spawn. Hold your spawn if you die now.
Top stone dead patty right now.
We should have went for front control. Wookie. One of us should have.
Rock, fellow.
Cut right.
He's in broken somewhere dead patty. I think he's top.
One other thing to watch for as we continue to progress through the first set of rotations and into the second set of rotations is watch the kill feed on the left-hand side, because I have now seen, of course, Formal with an AR, I've seen Arcees with an AR, and I've seen Pristini with an AR. So whether or not Pristini picked up an AR and got a kill that way, that's still to be determined. But like right there in the kill feed, he got another kill with the M4. So it seems as though the current meta for them is that Scump and Envoy are running SMGs. The other three, Arcides, Pristini, and Formal, are running ARs. And actually Envoy's using the Uzi again. So Scump's the only MP5 going for Chicago right now. It's a little bit different. Actually, it's a lot different than what we're seeing from other professional teams.
Short, yeah.
They're going around. Initial?
Yeah,
They're going around for sure.
I'm one shot.
Royalty weak. Chicken. Oh my god. Royalty could be.
Nice.
One around, I think.
Nest. Fucking suck.
On time. Good job, Seth.
They're spawning behind me. I think.
P4. Yeah, P4.
He's already in P2 now.
I have time here right now.
One hit P2. Yo, they're hitting.
Hold your back
They're
yellow.
hitting.
Hold your back yellow.
Hold my phone.
So I'm going to pause this real quick just so you guys can see what Chicago's doing right now, which is forcing a Triumph P4 spawn. So Triumph is spawning up here. Reason being is because Chicago was able to push out the back. They have somebody inside of P1, and I believe it's Arcides that's pushed up over here towards Cave West. So once you have this locked down, you have the middle of the map. And if you push out just a little bit further and you get the left side over here by Sniper's Hut, then the only place that's left for the game to put them is over here inside of P4. Now, as it goes towards P2, they do kind of have a direct route into P2. They're not really going to be able to contest inside of P1 because you only have this small choke point to work through, and Scump was just watching that along with others. So the way that this could backfire is if Triumph is able to push through P2 and get the 2 kills that's back at this spawn. If they're able to do that, then they can flip and get the majority of the time inside of P2, but that's not very likely. Let's just see what happens as it continues to play out.
At least 2.
Back yellow, one shot, stone, one shot.
Flip.
Yo, top yellow.
I'm dead.
Hell,
Weak. Good trick.
And just what we were talking about actually happened. So the 2 that were holding P2 spawns ended up dying. So when Scump comes up off a spawn, he's going to spawn behind Arcides that we were just looking at. So they are going to spawn out as it rotates to P2. So now they have a little bit of an uphill battle, but we'll see if they're able to flip or just contest a little bit and hold the chokes as it rotates from P2 to P3 now.
You're good. Let's go to the back for pressing.
Holy shit, on this kid.
Throw the back with
Close,
pressing.
underpass,
I'm getting
stop
stunned.
bed, stop bed's dead.
One's on
On
the
the
truck.
truck,
truck.
Amen.
Hey, truck pressing. I got him. I got him.
Half all
Nice,
two, half all
Another kid
half
looking for you.
all
Spawns
push front.
flipped
He
again.
got me on trucks. They're spawning front. They're spawning front. This guy's spawning front.
I'm holding in the back of the
Let's push the back pressing. I'm here pressing.
Oh my god, how am I
Yep, I'm racing.
Yeah, underpass.
Back dead. I got the guy close back. There's two on time.
One time.
You're gonna be on the pass coming too.
Going on.
Rotate weak. Rotate weak.
He's watching the lane.
No,
right?
fellas going underpass again.
Fellow underpass.
Just guarantee this time. Guarantee this time. Let's go. We're by
Back
lot.
right, Dave. Dave's back right. Two on time.
Naga's
He's
front
laid down,
stone
laid down.
weak. Naga's front
Dave dead?
stone weak.
Big time. Big time.
We
Framing.
go.
Yeah, I got him. I got him.
Fucking hot, my
Underpass probably.
Underpass, he's up the truck.
Underpass coming. Fellas, close left. Close left. Yep. One more close.
Yeah, got me.
Good job.
Pass again, Dave Petty weak.
All the time.
Weak, Dave Petty.
So you don't really see this too much in pro games per se, but this is a nice job from Triumph of both pushing up and being able to not only hold that P2 hill time, but pushing up just a little bit further, watching those back alleys, being able to get spawn kills as Chicago's trying to work back towards P2. And if you're Chicago, you lost P2, you were able to flip, but it didn't help you very much. And now you're really struggling to get through these choke points as you're rotating from P2 to P3. So here over the last hill and a half or so, it's been a really, basically a perfect job from Triumph of locking down P2 and now locking down spawns as it rotates to P3.
Someone's making a spawn out. We're good. We're good.
I'm one shot.
Gun dead. Or weak
pitching,
behind
pitching.
gun. Dead behind gun.
Pitch it. Go pressing. Go pressing.
One shot fellow, silo. He's top silo, one
Top
bullet.
stone. Top stone.
Top silo,
He's
one
gonna
bullet.
be top broken.
Pinch. Yeah, he killed me.
I'm rotating. Get in new. Yeah, I need help, new guys.
What's hotel on one?
I got one new.
We're new.
Pinch dead.
It's short, dude. I feel
Green time.
stacks. Good job. That's first guy.
I'm looking to be down. Be down, dead.
Yep.
Nice. Do you have all?
I don't have full pinch.
I have.
You can do whatever you want if you
Okay,
want.
okay, I'm getting out.
I got pinch now. You go.
Yeah. You going?
Get my short out.
Yeah, I'm looking
We
short.
have a
I'm
trophy?
trying to.
Fellow weak middle.
He's weak short right now.
One be
You
down.
can
Oh, it's going yellow cut.
I almost hit Nathan. I'm hitting short with him.
Short again, weak. Hello.
Drum standing.
Can we get time?
Standing outer.
You
I
have
got
time?
time.
Short dead.
I got time.
I'm
I
helping
I
you be
pinch,
down.
I pinch.
needed outer.
Pinching, dead.
Flash him outer unless that was you.
Yeah, he's there. He's
Hold
here.
on,
Keep
pinching.
shutting with you.
P2 spawns. P2
Pinch,
spawns.
pinch.
Got one.
Pinch,
Got
guys.
two. Yeah, here.
He's weak. Going beds.
Oh,
I
he's
have
two
your
there.
defense.
Two beds.
I
Come on,
got
doggy.
I got trap
Be down.
doggy.
One more short.
Short. One more on hill or outer.
Try to win.
Holding.
In
You guys
there, two,
keep
in there.
hitting. Keep hitting.
Yeah.
I'm hitting.
Everyone keep hitting.
We're spawning deep stuff.
Trophies.
I'm just trying to hold front right now.
Short dead. I'm sorry.
My bad. You're good.
Drop out. Gonna be in yellow or some
I
shit.
don't hear him around me.
Too old.
They're in cave. They're in cave wrapping. They're in cave
Yeah.
wrapping. Give me an underpass. Seth. I have
I'm
a
one
good cut.
shot yellow.
I'll come here in a second.
Yeah.
Ran away underpass. Seth. He's
We
gonna
might
be
hit.
on
Yeah, I'm one shot.
crossing. White truck.
One
white truck.
CMX. One boulder.
Danny, one.
So I thought that this game ended up being a little bit closer than that like 250 to 130 score. And the biggest reason why, you heard Arcides there towards the end of P4 just telling his team to keep hitting. That means as they come up off a spawn, rather than focus on getting the spawns for P5, they continue to hit inside of P4. It's not going to hurt them all that much because obviously they're still going to win, but it would have been a lot easier had they just focused on rotation. If they get that rotation to P5 a little bit earlier, then they don't have to worry about, a potential comeback or whatever, right? Because if Triumph was to get a team kill or two, then they could have gotten the majority of the time. It could have been a 245 to 200 ball game, and now who knows what happens, right? So didn't end up hurting them, but either way, would have been a little bit of a safer call. As we look at the scoreboard here, Arcides formal Envoy went 32 and 21. Good map out of him. Pristini +4. Scump +3. A lot of interactions there for Scump. You look down below, Nagafin had a really nice map, but kind of the same thing that we've seen throughout this scrim is Triumph doesn't really have the true slaying power that Chicago does, and they're a professional team for a reason, right? So with that, guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode. If you're new around here, I put out brand new videos every single day breaking down the Call of Duty League, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Any comments, put them down below. I love your comments, love the interactions, all that good stuff. Leave a like before you head on the way. It really helps out the channel. With that, thank you so much. I will catch you in tomorrow's upload.